Hey, it's the preacher here, and I got Pappaw with me. Pappaw is the name for my new 22 Magnum. And it's new to me, but it's definitely not new. It's a 1986 Marlin 783 22 Magnum. This gun, I'm named Pappaw because it belonged to my Pappaw. When he passed away, he left it to my uncle, and my uncle gave it to me. The good news is I didn't have to wait for him to pass away. He gave it to me now. And so I get to hunt with Pappaw. I get to shoot Pappaw. I get to take this piece of junk scope off Pappaw. Anyways, I want to tell you a little bit about this Marlin 22 Magnum, why I love Marlin 22 Magnums. I've owned a number of them over the years, and every time, write this down, every time I ever got rid of a 22 Magnum, I kicked myself. I mean, I regretted it. Story time. My love for Marlins go back to when I was a kid and my dad had beagles and we rabbit hunted. And we would go out on the weekends and usually be a group of guys and my dad's dogs. We had shotguns and we would run rabbits. And we would do that after deer season was over. But to get those dogs tuned up and in shape, we would let them go out behind the house and run. And it would usually just be me and my dad. And there was not a big crowd. And he would carry his Marlin 783 22 Magnum. And I watched my dad on a number of occasions with a scope shoot rabbits on the run with a 22 Magnum. And he done it a lot. And I thought, man, when I grow up, I want to get me a 22 Magnum. And I did. I got a Marlin, but I did not get a 783. I got one that had a magazine on the bottom. And I didn't like it because when you put it on your shoulder, the magazine always hit right where the gun balanced out. The magazine was always poking you. So I thought, man, I want to get a Marlin with a tube on it. But by the time I was old enough to be buying my own guns, you couldn't hardly find a Marlin 22 Magnum with a tube on it. So I sold the first Marlin 22 Magnum I had. I bought a second one. And it was in stainless steel, also with a magazine that was not a tube. And I didn't care for it. It was real shiny. I felt like the Lone Ranger every time I carried it out. Plus it had a black stock. It was kind of cheapy. It was probably after some other company bought out Marlin. And they all shot good. I never had a Marlin 22 Magnum that didn't shoot good. I've never had a Marlin 22 anything that didn't shoot good. When I was about 16 or 17, I know I was old enough to drive, a friend of mine had a Marlin Model 60, 22, and he was wanting to sell it, and I said, what do you want for it? And he said, I'll take 2 cans of Skoal and $10. I gave him 2 cans of Skoal and $10 for a Marlin Model 60. It had the little squirrel crawling down the tree right here on the pistol grip. And it had a little medallion here. I think it said like Old West or Western Trapper or something. Anyways, we got a couple cans of spray paint and camoed the thing. I wish I still had it. I kicked myself for getting rid of it. This is a gun I'll never get rid of. And the reason I'll never get rid of it is because it belonged to my Pappaw, Grady Gann, and I'll treasure it. But I am going to get rid of the scope. Pappaw was a notorious fixer. Never got anything new, always just fixed what he had. And I don't know if he lost the covers for this scope dial, but this is a plastic, it looks like a cap that goes into an end of a pipe. And he just put it around the dial here and wrapped it in electrical tape. So obviously I'm not going to do that. So what I've elected to do instead is to put this Redfield Low Pro Wide Field 3x9 scope on it. And the reason I'm going to do that is when I got my first rifle in 1993, that was mine. I always hunted with one of Dad's extra rifles. When I graduated school, I went off in the Air Force basic training. When I came back from basic training and Security Police Academy and all those things, my dad had me a brand new Remington 700 30-06 with this used Redfield Low Pro 3x9 scope on it. And that was a 93, and this was a used scope. So this scope is still good. It still holds at 0. And it would be the right time period for this 1986 22 Magnum. And I'm not going to get fancy with this. This is going to be a squirrel killer. Something gets in the trash killer. So this scope would be for the time period of the rifle. That's why I want to put it on there. I mean, I'm not going to kid you. Pappaw hunted with it. The bluing's gone there. That looks like from riding in a gun rack. There's some scratches on it, some scuffs on it. But that just told me that Grandpa used it. And I remember Pappaw using it. Let me tell you why I prefer a tube magazine over a detachable mag in the bottom for a 22 mag. The reason is, in a 22 Magnum, you're not typically going to be going out shooting 400 or 500 rounds through it in a day. 22s, you would, or you should. But with a 22 Magnum, the cost of the ammo is substantially more than a 22. So you're primarily going to use it for hunting. That's not to say you wouldn't shoot it 100 times, but it's just as easy to load the tube if you're putting 13 in as it is to put 8 or 5 or 10 in a magazine. And so I don't have any problem taking the magazine open and dropping my shells in. And for hunting, I hate having that magazine sticking out right here. And it catches on things. So I prefer the tube magazine in a 22 Magnum, especially if it's a bolt action. I mean, you're not going to burn through 13 rounds. You carry more than you can in a regular magazine anyways. So Pappaw is my new project. I'm going to wipe it down, get it cleaned up. Going to swap the scopes out. And hopefully tomorrow, if I get home in time and it's not too hot, I'm going to go get the new scope on paper, get it hidden. Okay, let's talk about dating a Marlin 783 22 Magnum. Since we know they were made between 1971 and 1988, we're going to subtract the first 2 digits of the serial number from the year 2000. This one's a 14, so we would subtract 14 from 2000, meaning this gun was made in 1986. That would make it one of the more recent versions. Another telltale sign of a 783 is the JM stamped right below the back of the buckhorn sight. When you see the JM stamped there, that would tell you that this gun was made in Connecticut by the original Marlin company before they were bought out, changed hands, changed locations, because the 783 was made during that time frame. You see here we're looking at the stock. There's the butt of it. You have this white cap rim there below the butt plate. Then you have the swivel stud. Then you have this, I always wondered as a kid what it was for. I thought if you needed a shorter a sling or something. That's called a bullseye. And Marlin put that in the stocks of rifles if they were walnut stock. So if you have a Marlin rifle with that little bullseye seated right above the sling swivel, you know your stock is walnut. I got the new 3x9 Redfield, or the old 3x9 Redfield, put on this rifle. I think it sets it off, makes it look a lot better. Gotta love the resourcefulness of Pappaw. I don't know how long he hunted without that turret lid or cover on there, just wrapped in duct tape with a plastic cap over it. He made do with what he had, and he killed a lot of stuff. I'll just be shooting stuff with it because I like 22 Magnums, I like Marlins, I like tube fed, and I love Pappaw. And this is his gun, and I'm proud of it. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned a little bit about the Marlin 783. If you find one of these at a pawn shop, pick it up. You wouldn't regret it. You would enjoy this gun. Now, that's not to say that something mechanically can't be broken in here. That's not to say that you know, the barrel can't be badly rusted. I mean, do your due diligence. But if you find it decent, even if it's got some scratches and a little wear here and there, I bet you it's still a good shooter. And I bet if it don't shoot good, you can sell it and get your money back, because a lot of people like these old tube-fed Marlin 22s and 22 Magnums. I know I do, and I'm excited about it. I'm thankful for my uncle, Coyote Man Grady Gann, giving it to me. I appreciate it. It'll be used. And, oh well, when I'm gone, I guess my boy can shoot it. Thank you all for watching. I'm telling you the truth. I'm not lying. I'm not preaching right here. I'm telling the truth. I bought the Marlin Model 60 22 for 2 cans of Skull and $10. And that was back when Skull was like $1.25 a can. So I bought that Marlin Model 60 used off a guy for $13. And it wasn't stolen, because his dad was mad at him that he sold it later. This is considered Arkansas's #1 deer rifle. Oh, and by the way, I tell the truth when I'm preaching too. It's not that when I'm not preaching, I'm not telling the truth. It's just the common perception is preachers are liars, and that's why it's hard to be a preacher these days.